Yo, yo, yo. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie comic interview. It is your Caped Crusader, Cody, and we are keeping it geekly with our brand new friend, Nathaniel Osollo from the Dark...
Everybody.
Did I get that correct this time?
You got it.
Yes! From the Dark Mouse, The Climb, and other tales, we're going to be breaking down this awesome anthology and taking a look at 1/3 of it. We're going to be taking another deep look at the Kickstarter as well and kind of breaking that down. But before we even dive into that, Nathaniel, give us a little bit of a breakdown of who you are and how you ended up coming into comics.
Who I am. I'm Nathaniel Osollo. I'm an artist, illustrator, designer, public art maker, whatever you, any kind of creative medium I can get my hands on, I'm going to try and get my hands on it. I've been drawing ever since I was a wee lad, like 4 years old. Been making books and comics since I was like 6 years old. And always like took the art classes in school. Been self-publishing since 2010. I got into comics in 2010 because I'd just gotten fired from a job, and I was like, you know what, I really need to like spend my time doing something I like. So like I still have I have a different 9-to-5 today, but I spend a lot of my time making comics also, and that started again seriously in 2010. And before that, like I was introduced to comics by my dad, who bought me a comic book off a spinner rack in a store. They don't have those anymore, but he bought me a comic book and gave it to me. I'm pretty sure to like shut me up while we were in Ralph's or something, just like getting the groceries for the week when I was 5 or 6. And yeah, that's me and how I came into comics.
That's awesome. Outside of losing the job, but it's often like during
Sure.
that trial and tribulation that we get pushed and motivated to really truly become who we need to be. I mean, you started creating these at such a young age. Did you ever envision yourself being at this level? I mean, and what's your family think? I'm sure your family had, a lot of supportive things to say too, watching you do this at such a young age and then develop into someone who's been doing this and making it self-sufficient.
Yeah, family has always been really supportive, which is nice. They never had a discouraging word for me. So it's nice to have that kind of support system whenever you're making anything you want to make. When you're exploring that creative avenue and trying to make that sustain your life. And like I said, my art is supporting itself right now. It's not my full-time gig, but there's still a lot of places I want to go with my art. So like by no means do I feel like I've achieved like any kind of pinnacle. Like I've hit a couple of milestones that are good for me, and I want to keep growing. And there's people who I really look up to that are doing things different ways, and I want to try as much as I can.
Yeah. So what were some of those milestones that you hit, and what are some of the ones that you're looking to hit next time?
First milestones, or some of the milestones, would be like like tabling at conventions for a lot of people. Yeah, that's kind of a big one, and it's there's like a little bit of like the man behind the curtain perspective on that, depending on who you talk to, because like I'll be at shows, comic book conventions, and I'll be like showing my comics and my art or stickers, whatever I have, and then like people who I haven't seen in years, like I saw them in high school last time, or I only see them on Facebook. They see me behind the table and they're just like, wow, how'd you get here?
Oh,
and
that's
like,
so cool.
Yeah, and then I'm just like, well, I just paid the fee, really. Like that's all you gotta do for a lot of these shows. It's a pay to play thing. It's basically
you gotta keep that illusion going, my friend.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm famous now.
Yeah, right. I'm absolutely not. It's I try and remain humble. There are some things I'm proud of. Like I can do the shows and make a profit. Like that's something that depending on who you talk to, that's not even depending on who you talk to. I think it's a difficult thing to do, and I've been able to do that since like 2016. It takes a lot of business, maybe not a lot, but like takes some business savvy and some of treating your art as a product, which depending on who you talk to is a good thing or a bad thing. I don't mind it. It's made as entertainment, and I want to entertain people. And if people are kind enough to pay for it, I appreciate that. Like I said, I'm not famous. I don't have a line at my tables, but that's one of those milestones. Getting back to that, being able to table at a show is pretty nice to say. It's a nice feather in the cap. getting invited to a show, which has happened a couple of times.
Oh, that's even better, huh?
That's even better. That's like when you don't have to pay for it, when the show promoter says, hey, I like your book, or I saw this on, I saw that on StreamYard, I saw that on Cody's show, you should come to our convention. For anybody who's watching, I would love to table at your show, and people at my table always have a great experience. Plug. Another milestone, which is really, really nice, is when you're tabling and somebody buys your thing for the first time. That's cool. But when somebody comes back to your table, at like a second or third show, like a couple years later or a year later, they're like, hey, I have the first issue of this Dark Mouse thing. What's the next one? And then I'm like, oh, here's the next one. I'm like, thanks so much for coming back. They're like, yeah, I love this book. And then they pay you, they take your comic,
oh
they say
man,
thanks,
that's so
maybe
cool.
take a picture. It's real rad. So like they're like to lean into like building that illusion a little bit. I don't know if it's an illusion, but I am the artist, and I am like signing autographs when people buy books. They're just like, hey, can I buy this from you? Will you sign it? It's like, yeah, sure. Like I'll sign your book. And then occasionally, I don't know if this is a milestone, this is just something I just thought of, but like occasionally people will bring other stuff that other people made and ask me to sign it. And I was just like, well, I didn't do anything on this, right? And they're like, yeah, but I still like your thing. All right, cool, man, here you go. Like I had somebody asked me to sketch a Brian Lee O'Malley character. I think it was Scott Pilgrim. And like I drew it and then I signed it, and then man, I can't even remember the combo of this, but like then they took it to him and asked him to sign it. And like I didn't feel weird about that because my signature was already on it, and like he was just signing it. It was like this weird bootleg sketch thing that like the creator was like totally fine with, because he ended up signing it, and that person came back to the table and showed me.
And so once you got that little badge of approval, that probably was nice. I mean, yeah, that would be, I don't know how I would feel about that. That's almost like going up to a tattooer and be like, hey, will you tattoo this design this other guy did? Like,
sure, yeah. And like that's sometimes that's a faux pas, but like other times, like I've absolutely drawn designs for friends who have then taken that to a tattoo artist. Like that was like always the intention of it. They were like, hey, can you sketch this thing out for me, and I'm going to take it to so and so, and they're going to scar me for life with this beautiful art.
We have Olivia over on Twitch saying hi. Hey, how you doing, girl? That's my girlfriend, so she supports me on this channel just as much. So nice. Let's go ahead and dive into some of those early works before we take a look at the Kickstarter. What was your first comic about?
First comic was called 140. 140 is a Twitter-based comic. It's basically a crowdsourced comic book, if that makes sense. What I would do is basically a exquisite corpse kind of project, which means that taking a lot of different things and putting them together to make one thing. The idea was to get people to tweet me, and then I would take those tweets and incorporate them into the comic book and just make whatever I was going to make. And that's available on my website on idraw.com. So if you scroll through those free comics and you find 140, you're going to see this weird sci-fi kind of like some people have described it like a David Lynch comic book about this character who's skateboarding and then runs into like a three-eyed assassin in the next issue. And then like it's very Alice in Wonderland because of trying to shoehorn all this random jargon into there. So there's a lot of things that end up as kind of like sound effects or background elements, like the slogans on billboards and stuff. And it's just like really random verbiage.
So how was the response to that? Like
go ahead.
I was gonna say from the people on Twitter and everything, like what did they think about it, and how far did you end up taking that series?
I took that series to 3 issues. The response was positive, but that was at the time where like I wasn't really making money from art, so like I was producing these as I went. There are maybe 100 physical copies of each issue out in the world somewhere, probably less, but it's the people that did see it, like that small number, they liked it. They were like, oh, this is cool and weird, and I've never seen anything like it. Like, oh yeah, that's me cutting my teeth. That's me like getting into it and like learning as I'm going. And like I said, people can still read that thing. I still love it. It's still got a soft spot in my heart.
Was it hard to come up with like the script and everything for it? Like taking the different types of responses and trying to form them into a story?
Yes and no, because I didn't really make a script for it since it was going to be a bunch of just random nonsense I was putting together. So the tough part became trying to make up the drawings that went with it. So it starts off as a this character, she's getting ready for school and she's getting on her skateboard. It's very like imagine like Bart Simpson's morning routine. It's like that. And like she's got stickers on her skateboard that like all the tweets are now the stickers on the skateboard.
Yeah, that's cool.
She's taking a shower and the shampoo soap suds on the floor are forming one of the phrases or one of the tweets that somebody sent in. So it's like a bunch of just rant. It was really an exercise in text art making in a comic.
Yeah, that sounds pretty insane and immersive as well.
Yeah, it was immersive is a good word for it.
So what was the next comic after that? You know, you knocked out 3 of these issues. Where did you lead into next?
It was at that point I was still like doing a lot of experimentation. So the next thing was like another thing that hardly anybody read called the Burn issue, which is a bunch of random art put together all around heat or hotness or fire themed artwork, that kind of stuff. So kind of a glorified zine all about like things that are like fire or hot. So there's like a tiny story in there about these people who live under a volcano. There's this thing about this comic about a sentient burrito, which I think is like 2 pages. There's this like real slow burn joke about this guy waking up and doing his morning routine and then like burning himself on some coffee. So I was doing that kind of stuff. And then like eventually I was doing stuff like Dark Mouse, which is my baby right now, which is the Kickstarter that just funded. And that guy is a little more cohesive. That was really at first a parody on Mouse Guard. Are you familiar with David Peterson and Mouse Guard?
I don't believe I am.
Oh man, that's a solid book that like had a real I want to say like a real like time in the spotlight 10 years ago, maybe 15 at this point, where this like trippy looking, maybe not trippy, but like unusually formatted comic that was a perfect square booklet, as opposed to, you know, like the stand-up rectangle, came out, and it was called Mouse Guard, and it was just about these mice that are kind of like medieval mice. They are, you know,
maybe the medieval part does kind of sound familiar.
Yeah, they're kind of these heroic characters. They're sentries for like the different mice kingdoms. At the end papers of all the books, you have little maps of like all the different mouse kingdoms that they travel to.
That's so cool.
They fight, you know, giant monsters, which are really just other animals. They fight snakes and crabs and crows and weasels are in there. They go on like epic journeys, very, very like classic hero stuff. And they're just kind of like these extremely noble characters. And I was like, oh, what if one of them was a dick? And then I made Dark Mouse.
So Dark Mouse is a dick, huh?
Yeah, he's kind of a jerk. He's
that's awesome.
Not quite a sociopath, but he's definitely an anti-hero. He's the Clint Eastwood in Dirty Harry. He's not friendly, but he'll do the honorable thing. But he's not gonna be nice about it. So that's his character.
That's so awesome. We have Elena over on Twitch as well saying, "Good evening, fellas. Hello, and thank you for tuning in. Any questions? Feel free to drop them for us. We're going to be breaking down Dark Mouse, then going into the Kickstarter and reading one of the very first stories that kind of leaked out. So I'm really excited about that as well. So how long have you been working on Dark Mouse for, and how many stories have you put them in?
Dark Mouse has been around since around 2011, 2012. I actually, in this comic book that I just funded on Kickstarter, I have like a small portion in the back that catalogs all the different Dark Mouse stories that I've put out. So cool. I've got all the published ones, whether they're digital or physical. And most of the physical ones are zines, like little tiny mini comics that I would print. There's definitely a few hundred of each of those, just because I remember printing that many and folding them myself. But he exists in like probably 12 different publications that I've put out that I've self-published. And this will be the 11th or 13th, depending on that count. I forget what that actual spread is, but it's right around there. And it's all, I'm treating him as I think like Mike Mignola treated Hellboy. Like, oh, this is a story from this point in Dark Mouse's life, and then the next series will be like that point in Dark Mouse's life, and so on. So it's not like a continuing monthly series or monthly magazine that some people might be used to. It's just kind of like, as I get to them, I'm building this Dark Mouse world.
So what is going to really set Dark Mouse apart from all the other type of mice type of comics out there? You know, what type of adventures can we see? What type of antagonist, and what type of personality are we going to see develop?
Well, like I was saying, he's kind of an anti-hero. What's gonna set him apart from like all the other mice? Because like for sure there are a million different mice. There's Mickey, Mighty. I like to say this is a Secret of Nim meets Sin City. So like the separation or the distinction with this will hopefully be that this is a little more mature than like a kid's cartoon, even though it is still, you know, I'm kind of a cartoonist. I make comics. But it's going to be violent. It's going to be noirish. It's going to be fun and adventurous. That like I have like all these different homages in my head for like all these different kinds of stories. This is really kind of Dark Mouse, the Climate Under Tales. This anthology is really kind of my love letter to Sin City. I have another story in my head that's kind of a Dark Mouse love letter to Indiana Jones. So that one's going to be kind of a jungle adventure kind of thing.
That's going to be so cool.
So like hopefully there's a little bit of everything, a little bit of something for everybody in these stories that I'm going to come out with. He's going to be fighting, you know, giant monsters, which are just cats. It's going to be fun and adventurous, and so hopefully it's going to capture like that kind of audience. This is not a it's not a teacup ride at Disneyland. It's also not Saw or like, you know, anything super violent. It's hopefully somewhere in the middle there. So if there's anybody that's square between those two vastly different things I just described, then this is for you.
That's so awesome. So before we dive into the Kickstarter, what type of experiences, I guess, as an artist and creator, have you had? Like, have you taken any like different courses, or is everything 100% like self-study?
Oh, no. I've absolutely taken classes. I have no qualms with saying that. I've been drawing and you know, creative for all of my life, or most of my life. But I have absolutely taken at least one art class every year while I was in school, like, you know, all the way through high school. After that, I was an art major. I got I graduated with my bachelor's with honors from Cal State San Bernardino, and my major was studio art, which really just means I can paint good. So like if you want a painted portrait of your family, I can do that 100%.
I got you.
Yeah, exactly.
You want them to be mouses or no? Let me know.
Yeah, exactly. How big do you want the ears? Tails? What are we thinking? Whiskers? So like aside from that, there's like a lot of other things that you need in comics: graphic design, illustration, that kind of thing. Anyways, but like, yeah, I've always taken some kind of class. Lately, I've set the goal in my life to try and take at least one art and design class a year. And the pandemic was awful. No question about it. But it's also given a lot of people like a new chance at like perspective and like being able to reorient themselves. Hopefully, it gave me the opportunity to save some time on my commute, because I've been working remotely ever since 2020, and being able to decide, okay, I have some extra time. What do I want to do with that? A lot of people have been able to, get a new job and leave, change their lives completely. I in 2020 hunkered down and took like 4 different art and design classes throughout the year.
Let's go.
So like I was doing some like digital painting classes, doing some intro to concept art and design. So I've since then made it a personal goal to like always take some kind of art and design class.
That's awesome.
Like, at least once a year to stay in practice, develop a new skill maybe, or just hone my skills in something else, because I want to keep growing and keep learning. I don't have all the answers. I probably never will, but while I'm here, I can hopefully learn some things and get better at some other things.
Absolutely. Would you say you saw like pretty big leaps within your art from taking those 4 courses like so close together, like back to back like that?
Absolutely. And probably not from like taking those classes so close together, but just like taking those classes in some field that I had never like really dived in and dove into before, because like I said, my major in college, 10, 15 years ago was like studio art. Like I can paint. I have all those foundational traditional skills, but I didn't have the language or the vocabulary to apply them to entertainment design. Like I didn't know what file naming system I should be using when I'm trying to save my drawings for future reference. I don't know what presentation style to show to a potential employer. All I know is how to make a drawing. Like, okay, that's cool, but like now try and get into this mindset and try and deliver this product. Like that I didn't have. So there was definitely a jump in presentation and a jump in vocabulary and just like getting a little more specific, other than just painting shit good. Like now I can draw and design stuff like with a specific product in mind.
So do you create this digitally since you have that degree, or do you find yourself doing it more of the traditional style?
There's a little bit of both. I always start something. I always start all my drawings traditionally, so it's always like either pencil and paper or pen on paper, and then I will scan that into the computer and use that as either inspiration or build directly onto that. So I'm going to be, embellishing. If I, as rarely as this happens, but if I get a sketch down perfectly and I'm just like, oh yeah, this is going to be like the foundation for the final drawing, that goes into the computer, and then I'm just painting on that. But most of the time it's probably like, this is a pretty good drawing, put it on the computer. His tail should be this way. He should be a little more dynamic. So like I'll redraw that. So like there's 9 times out of 10 some kind of physical drawing that happens before I get into digital. And digital is where I'm coloring, where I'm throwing in shadows, lighting, or accentuating stuff that I've already put down on paper. So it's a little bit of both, to answer your question.
And I know I keep holding this off. We're going to be diving in real soon, I promise. But when you go to design this, like what comes first? Like, how does your design process look like? Do you come up with the sketch first? Do you do the script first, then the sketch? Like, how do you do your thumbnails? Like, let's break those aspects down too.
Sure. So for this one specifically, since we're about to look at it, couple different things. This comic book, Dark Mouse, The Climb, and Other Tales, is made up of 3 different stories. We're going to look at the first story called The Climb. The Climb is unique to the other 2. It's unique because it was made as part of a monthly meetup that I used to go to, and I explain this in the book. It's a serialized zine comic book story, meaning every month I would go to a comic book shop with a bunch of buddies or a bunch of just other artists, and everybody there would draw 1 page of artwork, comics or portraits, whatever they were doing. They would make a page and they would give it to the guy that would organize the meetings. His name is Chuck Kerr, and he would take those, go home, scan them, create a Photoshop file or Illustrator file, take them to a print shop, print it out, get it stapled, and come back the next month with like, hey, here's a collection, here's a zine, this is a book of all the artwork everybody made last month. And what I would do, and then a lot of other people did this with their stories too. I'm sure other people have collected them, but I would do a 1 page to this story every month, this Dark Mouse, The Climb. So over 12 of those meetings and 12 of those issues, I released that entire story through that. Now, again, that's kind of a small run scenario. That's like maybe 50 people would show up every time. So like maybe this story exists in like 50 different copies of this book. But that's how this came out the first time. So each one of these pages is kind of its own little art project. That's
really cool, though. That's pretty unique.
Yeah, it's super unique. It's serialized, and every month I got a chance to just like say like, this month it's gonna be all letters, or this month it's gonna be mostly just like a mouse figure, or this I got to play around with it. So each page is its own thing, and that's kind of fun. The other 2 pages, which we're not going to see today, but you can get it on my website, idraw.com. The other 2 stories.
I sorry to interrupt you by hearing you pronounce it. I loved iDraw because the way you spelled it, I was like, okay, I was like, is that draw? But like, it's just a play on the words. That's awesome, dude. That's brilliant.
Yeah, thanks. It's it definitely is a play on words. It's a MySpace thing that I made one day, and I was like, this is dumb, and then like I just kept it for the past ever since MySpace.
It's smart though. It's smart.
Thanks. We'll go with that. The other 2 stories, to go back to your breakdown question, the way I'm an artist and writer. I don't know that I've ever written a script, but all of these stories, every comic that I've made, I can't think of a time. I'm sure there's a time where I drew somebody else's comic. Oh yeah, there is one. It's called Skatepocalypse. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's fun. But for any stories that I'm making, I don't ever actually make a script because I'm the artist. Typically in a comic book creating relationship, the writer will create the script to communicate to the artist, hey, this is what it should look like. Since I'm already both, I don't need to really communicate that to myself. So I'm very visually oriented when I'm creating these stories. So really what I'm doing when I'm thinking of these stories is just thinking about a sequence or something that would look cool. Like, oh, it would look really cool if Dark Mouse was fighting 100 ninjas in a movie theater. What would that look like? And then I'll sketch that out and like, okay, cool. How does he get there? And then maybe I doodle something or make some notes and like, this is how we get to that point. And that's my scripting process.
Okay.
And slowly over time, those sketches, will become more polished. I decide on the pacing of the story. Like, well, this is kind of a big moment that should happen over here. We got to build up to it. These different moments will happen, this dialogue and these characters, and that's how we get here. So that's really how that works.
What inspired you to kind of last question? What inspired you to kind of go that route, like and do that creative process?
Really, it's just like a practical thing. It's if I'm just thinking about that story, then like I'll make that. The scripts and all of that just hasn't come into my production process, just because, like I said, it's always me who I'm working with. But I'm also making an effort. This is also something I think maybe subconsciously happened during the pandemic, but I'm also making an effort to like reach out to other artists more, communicate with them more. I started my own YouTube show with some buddies, and I have episodes where it's just me drawing with other people. It's very what I call two Bob Rosses, where we're instead of painting
cool.
like a beautiful scenic moment, we're drawing Spider-Man or Doctor Strange.
Shout it out. What's the name of it?
It's called Combo. It's on YouTube. You can find it. You can find links to that on my website again, idraw.com. But going back to your question, like the reason that I have that process is because it's all just me. So I'm trying to make an effort right now to reach out to other people and say like, hey, like I've always been working on my own stories, playing with my own toys. Like, do you have any toys that I can play with? Can I make some toys? Can I write some scripts for other people? Because like I love the way this guy draws or that girl draws, and I would want to make these stories. I don't have time to do this, and I feel like so and so could probably do it way better than me. So maybe I'm gonna do some scripts soon. I don't know. But as I connect with other people a little more and more intentional and deliberate with those relationships, maybe that process will change. But whenever I'm making something myself, that's the process. Hey, that'll look cool. Why am I going to tell that story? Does anyone care about this character? Will anyone pick up this book? Let's find out.
That is awesome. Let's go ahead and with that note, we're going to be segueing. Yeah, I lost my word there. Let's take a look at the Kickstarter, and then we'll finish off with actually taking a look at the first third of the book itself. Real quick, hold on one second. I need to look up. We have someone over on YouTube, and I butcher his name, but the pronunciation is on his Twitch. Or his Twitter, I mean. Oh, I cannot find it. Oh, I can't. Give me your pronunciation to your name in chat. I love him because he's been in our spaces, but he's saying, what is up, total excellence, killer looking mouse. So nothing but kindness. Sweet. Over in the chat over on YouTube. I'm just having a hard time coming up with his name because I wanted to say it was like Ichthy, but I don't think it is. It's Ichthys, and I never would have guessed without that pronunciation because the 5 is supposed to represent an S. So thank you for popping in, YouTube. Welcome to the show. We're gonna be taking a look at the Kickstarter right here. So this is Dark Mouse, The Climb, and Other Tales. It looked like we hit a goal of 5,294 with the help of 110 backers. What was your original funding goal?
The goal was $5,000, so we just got over the hump right there.
Awesome.
We got just past the goal line, and it was a real good first experience. Real inspiring first experience. Like we got that Project We Love badge like on the
that is so cool. So
first time.
When did you get that? At what point during the campaign?
4 days in, something like that. Go ahead.
Because it's always like kind of like this myth, it seems like, within the Kickstarter community. No one knows what exactly causes it. So I try to ask these questions when people get it, so that way I can try to, I guess, like try to think of what's going on. We have our friend Ichthys saying congratulations as well. So if I can ask, how much of your $5,000 goal did you have funded when you hit that in those 3 days?
I had about probably 25-30%, right around there.
It almost seems like the closer you hit, to like at least like $700 to $1,000, that project we love seems more and more viable, but it has to be within like the first 48 to 72 hours, it feels.
That's what I've heard. I've heard that from like, different like, Kickstarter gurus and people who do this way more than me and have a lot more practice at it. And like I've talked to those people. I've watched their YouTube videos. I've taken notes. I have like a few pages in my sketchbook right here that is just Kickstarter notes from earlier this year. And that seemed like it was the consensus. Like, oh, hey, in your first 48 hours, you want to hit 20 or 30% of your financial goal, whatever that is. Like forget the number, $700, $800. Like if you're shooting for 40 grand, whatever it is, you got to hit that 30% in those first 48 hours. So like have people ready to go. And then like I asked like the same people after the fact, like, hey, like, so like I hit that statistic, right? So like that means that's why I got that badge. And they were like, no, like they like Kickstarter staff looks at the projects and they're like, oh yeah, I really like this thing. And then they give you the badge. And so like, I don't really know because I've heard conflicting things from the same people, not to discredit them, but they absolutely seem like they know what they're talking about.
I've heard having a really clean looking one helps too. And your Kickstarter definitely looked like it was clean, to the point, very descriptive as well.
Yeah, hopefully my years of creating written words and pictures helps me communicate ideas in like whatever format I choose. In this case, a Kickstarter page. So yeah, I tried to make that as clear as possible. What I was trying to do, what I was trying to fund, and yeah, it went well. So I'm real happy.
Is this
I don't have all the answers, but it went well.
Is this a video we can watch?
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and check it out. Just a heads up, any audio that plays from this is gonna like drown you out, so we won't be able to hear you during it.
No problem. Let's listen.
Oh, there we go. I was like, hey, it's not starting, but then I forgot to not press play.
Hi everyone, my name is Nathaniel Osollo, and I want to thank you for visiting the Kickstarter page for Dark Mouse to Climb and Other Tales. In this comic, you're going to follow Dark Mouse through some shady adventures, meet some interesting villains, and unfortunate circumstances along the way. Dark Mouse is a character that's very near and dear to my heart, and I'm extremely excited that this comic is finally getting the chance to see the light of day. This book is done and it's ready to go to the printer today. It's ready to go right now. The money raised by this campaign will go primarily to printing and production costs for the book, and I hope you back it today. I really, really appreciate it. What you're looking at right now is the original art for the book and some finished art. We're going to be giving these away as rewards, or giving a lot of this away as rewards, along with some other commissions and original art. I'm going to be doing a lot of drawing. This comic is an anthology with 3 stories that have never been collected and printed before, along with a few other back matter features. I'm the artist and writer for all of these stories, and that's been the case for most, if not all, of my self-published comics in the past. You can find a ton of those for free at idraw.com. You'll also find a ton of extra free Dark Mouse there as well. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this, and I hope you support today. If you can't, I hope you can take a second to tell a friend, tell your family, share this page on social media, and help spread the word. I make high quality art and high quality comics, and I appreciate even this opportunity to tell you that. Thank you for the support and allowing me to bring more art into the world.
That's so awesome. I think the call to action is something I don't see a lot in trailers, so it's cool that you told people to do that, because 9 times out of 10 they will. Another thing I noticed too is you have quite a bit of comments. I'm wondering if comments help the algorithm work in your favor on Kickstarters. It kind of seems to be like a trend whenever I look at successful campaigns. Usually a lot of them have, a decent amount of comments.
Yeah, I don't know. I assume so. Same with everything. I believe that was the case because like with so much of the internet, we want people to click on things and do things. So like I tried to incentivize that as much as I could. So I was running, like while I'm running this campaign, I'm also like posting on social media and telling people like, hey. Like how it says right there, back the printed book today and get, I would give different incentives like, hey, this week
This
we're
print
giving
looks
away
awesome.
Yeah, right. This is by my buddy June. You can find him on Instagram or online anywhere as June the Goon. He does these awesome, like kind of classic early '90s badass figures. And he at some point said like, "Hey man, if you need me to do a print or something," I was like, "Yeah, dude, I'd love you to." Like that's so like we negotiated over Instagram DMs, and he turned that out in like a day. I was like, "That's amazing." But like the comments thing was like, hey, comment between now and the end of this week to try and like I was being like very transparent with people. I want to get more engagement on my page, so comment on the page, and if you comment, then I'm gonna put you in a raffle and you get to win, whatever it was, the original art, sticker pack, that kind of stuff. So like,
what type of response did you see from that? Did you get a lot of comments within the first 3 days?
First 3 days I didn't focus on comments. First 3 days I just focused on people backing. So like the first 48 hours it was like, hey, if you back in the first 48 hours you get a shot at original art, and I can actually show you that original art piece that somebody won that we'll be shipping out with their book.
That's so awesome.
Which is this guy right here. Oh, you're not even gonna be able to see it.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we can see it better.
Yeah, so this is an 11x17 illustration that I'll be scanning, printing, folding up all the comics pieces. This piece will remain pristine and then get shipped out to the person that won that. But so it was very like, I was trying to reach those milestones. So like I was before I heard the idea that it might not be this, I was going based on those first 48 hours, 30% thing. So hey, back in those first 48 hours, you get a chance to win this. Also, everybody, not only do you get a chance to win that, but also everybody who backs in those first 48 hours will get that mini comic that I'm going to print and fold up. So like everybody who supports as early as possible will get, more comics. Like this Kickstarter was very comic centric. It was like, get the book and then original art. So like, here's the comic that you get, and if you back early, you get more comics. Like you're here for the comic, get some more of it if you want.
So scrolling past this print, let's go ahead and take a look at what Dark Mouse is. Action, danger, excitement. This is Dark Mouse, so this is a little bit of a breakdown for us. Dark Mouse is a gritty crime comic with mice. Join this Kickstarter and join Dark Mouse, a disgruntled police officer with a chip on his shoulder. Follow him through 3 shady adventures and meet devious villains and unfortunate circumstances at every turn. Find out how Dark Mouse deals with all of them in this new book. So Dark Mouse is actually a cop?
Yeah, he's a cop. There's a bigger arc in there where he gets I don't think I'm spoiling anything by saying that like he gets kicked off the force at some point because like that comes out in one of the other zines that I've put out. I was
gonna say our boy's 12. Look at this.
Yeah, he's been doing this for a minute, but yeah, he was a cop. He was never that great at it. He's always that reckless kind of anti-hero character, just like destruction of property, people getting hurt when they didn't need to, that kind of thing. And so like he eventually leaves that profession or is kicked out of that profession, however you want to look at it. But while he's doing that, he's breaking noses, breaking bones.
Yeah, let's go.
There's consequences to his actions. He's basically like what would I be in the world if I didn't have fear or like respect for people around me and things.
So I was gonna say it sounds like some extreme cases of mouse brutality.
Yeah, pretty much.
So right here is a little tidbit too about it being creator-owned comic, which we kind of delved into at the beginning. Now let's take a look at Dark Mouse, The Climb, and the Other Tales. So this is a look at the cover.
Yep.
I love seeing this climb to the top. Is this like on a hunk of cheese?
No, but it looks like it. It does read like that now that you were saying that. That's actually the word, the climb, like spelled out, which you can see. But that's pulled from page 4 from the comic, which we're going to look at in a second. That's just kind of like my favorite iteration from from that serialized story of the word "The Climb," and I was like, oh, that's a cover image. That's fine. We'll use that.
We have Ichthus over on YouTube saying, I'm waiting for a leak that Mel Gibson will voice Dark Mouse.
Yeah, in some kind of animated feature, sure. Him or Mickey Rourke, one of the two.
All right, so what you need to know, all the art and the writing is done. And by the way, this campaign has already successfully funded. We're just kind of taking a look because with it being successfully funded, this is a good tool for anyone out there that's new to kind of take a look at and not take ideas, but I guess model their own type of campaign off of. You know, this is something that's successful, so there's a lot of good to take away from this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's 100% what I was doing. Like I was saying earlier, I was taking notes on Kickstarter for at least a month, looking at other successful campaigns, like making outlines of what I wanted to do. So like everything you see here was formatted based on successful campaigns, and not just things in my genre, so to speak, like not just noir comics, but like all kinds of stuff, like fantasy comics or like just regular books. Mostly comics, because I'm trying to be focused on what I want to portray and the product I'm trying to create. But if anybody couldn't use this to model their campaign, yeah, absolutely. There's a buddy of mine named Eddie DeAngelini who's running his own Kickstarter right now. I think it's his 4th campaign. All of his campaigns have been successful. He like sat down with me for a good hour and a half, and we're like on Zoom one day, and I showed him my campaign before it officially launched, and we were just going through it with a fine-tooth comb, and he was like, oh yeah, you should do this. You're not doing this here. You don't need to, but this is what other people are saying. Was it like a brutal realization? No. It wasn't that bad. There was like 1 or 2 things that I hadn't done that he had suggested that like I had like no clue about. Like one thing that he imparted upon me was the idea of a retailer tier, meaning there are bookstores that need product on their shelf and they want to sell good books. Hopefully mine is decent enough, because I sold 4 of those tiers to different stores in the area. But basically it's like, hey, the lowest tier here, or one of the lower tiers here, is like, hey, just get the book. That's what I'm trying to kickstart. But the retailer tier is you can get 5 of the books, get 5 issues for this price, and then I'll ship that to you. Then you put it on your shelves at the store. And like Eddie is part owner, or used to be part owner, of a comic book store called Heidi Ho Comics. Shout out to Heidi Ho. And he was saying that like, yeah, like I want to put comics on my shelf, so like you should have that on there. Other stores will buy that, and sure enough, they did. That is so awesome. Yeah, I was just curious because I just submitted my first comic review not too long ago, and it went to the editor, and I got the email back, and had a rude awakening that I need to dust off my writing skills. That's for sure. So I was curious on how it was on that end. So right now we're taking a look at some of the art within the book, and we see an interesting scene where a mouse is about to stab another one with this brutal butcher knife. And this right here is, I'm assuming, our anti-hero, correct? That's actually not, but I can see how you would get confused. He's a cop. He's drawn in the same kind of model, and so like there's a little bit of that in there. I tried to distinguish what he looks like. So in one of the other pages in this, you see Dark Mouse. This is actually a rookie character from the story. I don't want to overcomplicate our conversation. No, you're fine. You're fine. It looks like Dark Mouse, not quite Dark Mouse yet, but the good stuff is in the book. All right, so let's scroll down. Size, this book's going to be the U.S. standard for comics. It's going to be remastered and colored with 60 pages and 3 stories. And then here is another look. Right here's Dark Mouse, correct? Yeah, this is Dark Mouse getting beat up. And then he elbows the ninja mouse behind him, and then he tackles a few of them, and eventually catches one of their swords that goes flying, and then it's all over for the rest of them. So what type of did you watch, like any sort of like fighting scenes or fighting movies to get inspiration on how to do these designs or paneling? Only all my life. So like this is very much a pull from like Quentin Tarantino's Crazy 88 scene in Kill Bill, I think Volume 1. But just like any other fight scene that you can think of. I love it when a fight is in tight quarters. So there's this like Jet Li movie from like 15-20 years ago called Unleashed, where he's like fighting people in like hallways. Oh god, Unleashed was such a good movie. It was such a good movie. What's the other one? Fearless? Where Fearless? Is that's the one where he gets poisoned because he was beating the American and they poisoned him in the final round? Maybe, I don't know that I've seen Fearless. I didn't see enough Jet Li movies. I saw like a handful, and that was it. But like Unleashed really stuck with me for whatever reason.
Hmm.
Probably, I don't know why. I like the parental
Yeah.
dynamic of Morgan Freeman teaching him the piano. Anyways, we're getting off topic.
I love the sword too. It looked like I could definitely see the Kill Bill like influences.
Yeah, and it's just fun making fight scenes and pulling from movies I've seen in my life, and that's like half of what any kind of pop culture you're watching. It's some kind of reference to something else, and hopefully you do a decent job with it.
Yes,
Hopefully
sir.
I did.
So the good stuff. So these rewards are going to be what we would see in the tiers, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be killing two birds with one stone then. The good stuff. So for $10, you gave out the digital comic plus the name in the comic book itself. $20, you get the physical copy. For $30, you get Dark Mouse plus past books point of view. Where do you want to be? So what type of book is that? How many pages are they expecting to get with that?
That one's very different. That's my last physical published book, and that was published by a small publisher out in Chicago called Cowhouse Press. They printed that book. It's actually about the same, like 60 pages, but it's digest size. It's 8.5 by 5.5. It is very different content wise. It's a lot of art and life philosophies that I have and that I was trying to work out and work with. Published in like 2017, and it's ironically 3 stories collected. It's another anthology, but they're all about deciding where you want to be in the universe and then how to get there. So like nonfiction, motivational, self-help comics, if that's a thing.
Yeah, and it feels like when you create something of that like level, like it helps yourself, right? Like it helps you like work through things too.
Absolutely, yeah. That book is 100% like my own personal art therapy. So reader beware.
So it looks like also at the $30 tier we can get Dark Mouse plus some stickers too. Do you have any of those that you'd like to show?
Oh man, I should really have those out in front of me here. Let me see. Maybe I can have those ready to go while we're talking.
Yeah, not worries, not a problem. So at the underneath this we got the $50 retail tier for five copies of the book. So that is a pretty outstanding deal. The physical itself was $20, so you're looking at saving a pretty penny there. And then 60 and up, so much original art. This is the fun stuff. This is the good stuff. That good. All the tiers slapped, but this one slaps a little bit different. This is where I have the most fun. You get the most unique rewards if you're up for it. I'd love to take you home some. I'd love you to take home some original drawings and paintings that you created. So you were actually selling some of the original art for $60.
Yeah, well, $60.
That is cheap. Yeah.
It's very cheap. It's actually brand new original art. So this is all like commissions that I'm going to be doing.
Okay.
That I should probably have started by now, but I've still been working on some other things. But this will be started. Actually, no, I have started that. Now that I'm looking around my desk, I already have some of those. But yeah, so these are all like brand new original commissions. Like, hey, get the comic, and I'm gonna have this small sketch and tuck it into the book and ship it off to you like that. So everything from here on is more original art. It's going to be stuff drawn in the book, or it's going to be a loose drawing that I tuck in there, and then I ship that out.
So right here, some of the stretch goals. Unfortunately, it didn't look like you hit them, but just to kind of give readers and anybody out there a look at, kind of stretch goals that are realistic to hit. Something that's not gonna, I'm imagining these are something that's not gonna cost you, an arm and a leg to get produced if you hit them. And that seems to kind of be the idea with stretch goals, to stretch out the goal a little bit, but not to bust the wallet too much. Yeah,
exactly. You want to looking at this with an economic eye, like trying to be mindful of what this is going to cost you, what your expenses are going to be. You're already spending, however X $1,000 to print something on paper and ship that out with shipping and accounting for that. You want to be mindful of what that is. Now, like you said, I didn't hit any of these, so I don't know if I'm the best person to talk to about it, but these were things that I came up with as ideas. So I was going to do 7 original zines in the book, meaning I was going to add pages to this. I went through and I did the math.
But you already have these zines created though, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, these are already done. All I have to do is kind of reformat them and put them in the comic. There's not a huge amount of time commitment for that. Same thing with the original art page feature, meaning I'm just going to be adding the book would get thicker and have more cool stuff inside it. Those are the stretch goals. And
So,
mine, go ahead.
I was gonna say another thing that I loved was this, but before we get into that, what was you gonna say before I interrupted?
I was gonna say that my intention with this whole thing was to just get the book printed, and I think that came across clearly with like how much money I raised and then what I was communicating to people. So like I don't think I ever actually, and this is probably a downfall on my part and something I'll do different in the future. I don't think I ever mentioned the stretch goals during the campaign. It was just like, hey, we got to get 5,000. Hey, we got to get 5,000. And then once we did, I was already like 2 days away, and I was like, oh man, I was like, if I can, I want to try and get 7,500, but like that just didn't materialize. And so that's something I'll be mindful of in the future. Like, hey guys, this is where I want to be. This is what we need to happen, but this is where I want to be. Like, let's get here. So that's if I can impart any knowledge, if anybody's curious, that's something I'm going to try and do different. And I would urge other people to try and do that. Say like, hey, here's where we all want to live. This is where like we can live. This will be good. This is your minimum goal. This is the stretch goal we want to hit.
And then right here, like we were saying earlier, where the money goes, I wanted to bring this up because two of the most like highest like raised campaigns I've ever interviewed, Ron Randall and Madeline Rosing Holly. Ron, I think, had a successful campaign of like 66,000, and then Madeline had 30,000, and they both were like this. It was like their 14th. Madeline, it was like her 14th or 11th Kickstarter. Ron's been in it for 35 years, so I think it was like his 11th or 10th. And the biggest things they said that I noticed with your campaign, at the top you mentioned how many, what you're funding, which was the comic, and then you also listed how many pages. That was another thing they listed. But the big thing they said was showing where the money goes. They say, most Kickstarters don't take this extra step to show, visually where it's going. So the fact that you had this, popped up was, I thought was interesting to bring up as well, because you show exactly, in a pie chart, how much is going to printing, fees. So this is how much Kickstarter takes out for it.
Absolutely, yeah. They
wow,
take.
That's a pretty big number.
It's a substantial number. 10%, depending on how you're looking at that, doesn't seem like a lot. But if I'm making, $5,000,
that's $500, right?
It's $500. That's 10%.
Yeah.
So like the way that breaks down is like it's 5% for their fee, and then on top of that, there's credit card fees, and that can land anywhere between 3 to 5%. So I'm just like, giving myself the padding and saying like it's 10%, because it's going to end up being close to 10%. If it's 8 or 9, it's right in there. And
then shipping. So did you charge reader shipping, or was that included?
I charged them the shipping, and that's part of that whole goal. So like, if somebody bought the physical book, that was $20. Shipping for that was $5. And that 25 gets thrown into the pot. So like anytime somebody wants to contribute, like that whole number, whatever they contribute, counting shipping gets counted. So like that's also something that I'm accounting for when I'm thinking about, this is the number it's going to cost for me to make it and ship it out. Here's what I need from you guys, the 20 plus the 5. So they chip that in, and then I ship out the book. I got you.
And then, this was an awesome pie chart. We have Oblivious saying she loves a good pie chart as well. So you want to print this comic for you, just kind of your little message to people kind of on the fence, it feels like.
Yeah, pretty much. This is like hey, like if anyone's wondering why I want to make this, like I want to make I subscribe to that philosophy of like I want to make the things that I want to see in the world. Like it's that whole idea of like if you can ever think of a time in your life where you said, oh, somebody should make X but with Y, and then like you never see that it ever exist in the world, like it never happens like that. Well, like that's because you had that idea and you should have made that. And in most cases, you could probably still take the time and do that thing. So like anytime I make a comic, it's because like, oh, I really think it would be cool to see Dark Mouse fall off a cliff and then try and climb back up and fight a bunch of other jackass mice when he gets up there. That just sounds really badass. Okay, let me draw this part first, like that, and then that's it. That's why I want to make this. I'm not trying to earn any award. I'm not trying to get. I love getting on podcasts and talking to people and meeting new people like yourself. That's never my goal. It's really, my goal is to have a cool comic to read and be able to share that, show people my work. But that does give me the opportunity to meet people like you and talk with other people and get more involved in different communities. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to make. This right here, classic Dark Mouse. I'm not sure if you had a segue or a way you wanted to lead into this.
So is this what we were actually going to look at?
This is, no, but you can. This is a Dark Mouse comic from 2013. This is the first full color printed book that I made of Dark Mouse. Everything else before this, I would qualify as a zine, something on like photocopy paper, and like I folded and cut up myself. This was something that I had a printer print. Somebody else manufactured this, and for a run of like, there's maybe 500 of those out in the world. But yeah, those are, as soon as my practice has always been, as soon as I sell something and I'm sold out of it in its physical form, I just put it online so like more people can get access to it.
Oh, I gotcha.
Yeah, that's I used to know Dark Mouse. That's told from the perspective of a detective mouse cop who used to work with Dark Mouse, and he tells a story about how a sting operation one night went bad. And yeah, you can flip through that if you want.
Yeah, let's go ahead. We'll just click on it.
Yeah, this is going to take you to issue.com, which is a great self-publishing or publishing website. I highly recommend people check it out.
Let me see how it looks right now. So yeah, it actually still looks like it's good. Let's go ahead and flip through it. So right here is the cover. I used to know Dark Mouse. So this gives us a little look at the story and a thank you as well. So what are we seeing happen within this paneling right at the rip?
So the left is a thank you message. Hey, thanks for picking up this book. The right is kind of establishing the story. It's a outside exterior shot. This is a warehouse or like some docks area where the sting operation is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. So this is actually done on a double spread as well, right?
What do you mean?
It looks like it's showing us pages 2 and 3 at the same time.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's just how this website works, and you can decide how you want to show this, either 1 page at a time or 2 pages at a time. I always do the double page spread. So when you turn the page, like it's like you were actually turning the page of the comic as opposed to a slideshow.
We have Ichthus saying, "Ooh, that's so cool. I'll definitely look into issue." Yeah, this is pretty cool. So let's go ahead and check out issues 4 and 5, and we'll let you kind of take the wheel and give us a breakdown of what's happening.
Sure. This is we can see the inside of the warehouse at this point. You have the narration from that detective character. He's talking about how the deal was going smoothly. All the cops were hiding outside, and he was like in like, I don't know, some like headquarters space with people listening in on audio or mice listening in on audio. And then he will say something like, I don't know what went wrong that night, but everything smelled of Dark Mouse. And the main character, Dark Mouse, his name is Drake. Like Dark Mouse is just kind of a nickname, but he's, as soon as he says like everything, it's like Dark Mouse was there. Then we see Dark Mouse on the right hand side. He's on the rooftop. He's sneaking in. He was part of this sting operation, but he got taken off because he was, reckless. And he made some mistakes, so the chief was like, "You're not going to be involved anymore." And he's like, "Screw you, I'm still going in." And he's acting on his own, and he's going to dissolve everything here. So in that last panel, he's like falling through this rooftop panel, and like the dialogue is, like your kind of stock like one-liner stuff. So he's like, whenever he got into trouble, he always got in deep.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love it. That's awesome. So let's check out pages 6 through 7. And it looks like he falls into, it looks like the attacking stance of a cat.
Yeah. He falls into this dark warehouse room. He gets up and he realizes where he is. Like he's with a giant cat. He's with a house cat, and nobody knew that the cat was there. And I think the dialogue on the other page is something like, "Nobody knew that the cat was there. Shouldn't have been there. This is not something we planned for when we were working on this thing." But that just made matters worse.
So what is this cat? Is it like a bodyguard? Is it like a villain? Like, what is this cat in this world?
It's never explained in this story, but at the end of it, you'll see where this goes. But I for this particular story, it basically the villain's attack dog that was just kind of like hiding out in the other room. That's just like where they kept it. So imagine like if Luke Skywalker was sneaking into Jabba the Hutt's palace, he just happens to fall into the Rancor pit and he finds the Rancor. That's what happened here.
So we have Ichthus over on YouTube saying he loves the art style, gives underground comic look of an aesthetic. Was that the original intent of the concept to the final product?
Yeah, absolutely. This is all very practical utilitarian comics. This is all pen and ink and then scanned in and then colored online. This was actually for a website called, oh no, I'm gonna forget the website, DWAP Productions, I believe, or at least that was the organization that was helping organize it. But it was a web comic originally. I did a page a week. It was free, and it was free for people to read. They were just hosting it on their website, and I retained all the rights to everything. So I collected it and put it.
Was this something like
out.
a paying gig for you, or like exposure?
This was exposure. This was just like, when I was still working on my craft and whatnot, still trying to figure out what I wanted to say. And at this point, I was like, yeah, I can do this for you guys.
Yeah.
And the intention was always like, I'm gonna do this for you guys, and I'm gonna print a book for myself at the end, which is what I ended up doing.
No, that is cool. That's awesome how it worked out as well.
Yeah.
What when you were doing this, what type of response did you see? Did you see people actively following you like on your social media platforms, or following you in some other sort of thread? Like, what were you doing to kind of like net that exposure?
Oh man, you're asking the right question, and my head was not in that space at all at that point. It really should have been, but I didn't see too much interaction. I saw some interaction online, but I didn't have the skill set or the mindset to try and capitalize on any kind of like online.
But this was still a couple years
traction
before you got to your Kickstarter, right?
Oh yeah. This is like
so
from
you
2013. This is
still
almost
behind
10 years
years
ago. Exactly. Yeah.
So if you had the opportunity, what would you do different?
Tell as much people about it as I was doing it while it was going up, and not rely so much. Like at that point, I was naive enough to think like, oh, they're gonna put it up on their website, so they're gonna be promoting the crap out of it, so I don't have to do anything, which is completely foolish. If anybody wants to take any other advice, it's hey, push and promote the shit out of your stuff as much as possible. Other people might do it, even if like those comic book stores earlier, I was saying they want product on their shelf. Cool, I got them that product. They're not going to be telling people every week, hey, come to our store and get Dark Mouse. Hey, come to our store and get Dark Mouse. They got other books. They got other things they got to do. They got their accounting and admin stuff they got to do. I got to be pushing people to get to that store to buy that thing off their shelf. So if you got something that's going to live in somebody else's backyard, get people to that backyard. That's your job.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. I think that is some really good advice to offer. So let's go ahead, check out 8 through 9.
Okay, and 8 through 9, this is at this point, our main villain in the top left has noticed something is wrong, and we can see through that door window that Dark Mouse is there, and the villain is like, oh, this is a setup, kill those guys. And as he's yelling that, his buddies downstairs are looking up at him, and they're getting distracted by him, who's trying to say, look out. And while they're not looking, a table gets thrown at them, and the two undercover cops have to try and survive. And so they're running, they're getting shot at. On the right-hand side, we have this like kind of diagonal composition that I settled on for some reason. And they're getting shot at, and Dark Mouse is getting his ass kicked, and the villain is talking shit to him, and he's saying like, hey man, your buddies are down there, they're about to get shot. You're up here, I'm beating you up. Like this is going real bad for you guys.
Yeah, show me something dark. Yeah, it looks like Dark Mouse kind of like set his people up for the woo without meaning to. Yeah,
he's gone in there and he's messed everything up, and he's not supposed to be there. So it's he's being reckless. This is what happens when you're reckless. You're not accounting for other people. Other people could get hurt. So things are going pretty badly right now.
And I really love how the gunfire made them yellow. Real quick before we turn the page, what was your reasoning for making this panel red?
I'm trying to dramatize this a little bit. Like when he says Dark Mouse, things go red. So like very similar to those martial arts scenes where we were looking at, things go red. That's kind of the same kind of thing. It's adding a little bit of visual drama, a little bit of seriousness. Like, hey, this looks different. Pay attention to it. Same thing with those guys shooting the guns. Sure, the muzzle flare is creating some lighting there, some dynamic lighting and shade, but it's also like the only yellow thing on that page, and I want you to see that. Same thing on the next page, the top left. There's different focal points here.
All right, so we are on 10 and 11.
And in this sequence, a lot of different things are happening, and I've got these long vertical panels to try and create a little more visual pressure. The cops in the warehouse are getting closed in on by the bad guys. They're getting closer to him, and it doesn't look good for them. Second panel, Dark Mouse is still getting beat up. Third panel, his old partner's running and they're trying to get into the warehouse. All the cops outside, they're trying to still make good on this capture. And not only that, they're trying to save their buddies inside. And then second to last panel there, we see the villain. He's completely got Dark Mouse at his mercy. He's like, Dark Mouse is unconscious almost at this point. And he's like, hey man, you let your friends down. You're about to eat it. Like, were you any good to anybody? And as he looks up, we see this dark shadow cast over him from what looks like a cat. And in the next page, we see
just the expression of him saying the oh shit, you know?
Yep.
So was this cat like, was it something like, what type of control did he have over the cat to cause the cat to kind of like flip on him, I guess?
He doesn't have a lot of control over him, but he's a friend. So go back to the last page. I should have pointed it out. I love subtle storytelling, and I love like small details, and I want people to try and piece stuff together on their own.
And for anyone. Sorry to interrupt. For anyone that is watching, I didn't have a chance to read this, so we are actually going through this. This is my first time going through, so if it was in the dialogue, that is why I missed it, not any indication of, you know, his storytelling or his ability as a writer. So I wanted to kind of make that clear for everybody.
Appreciate that. Yeah, and I didn't think I was going to be narrating a 10-year-old comic, but I'm totally down.
We kind of just went for it.
Yeah. So on this page, on the right-hand side, very important element here, but it's also very small. It's subtle. Actually, you should go back to one more page before this. Sorry. As we're looking at this, I'm remembering. So on this page, in this spread, when you first see the cat in that big image on the left, if you look closely at his paw, there's a small little piece of, like, it's a stick or a thorn sticking out of the paw. On the right-hand page, there it is again in that second panel. And if you go to the next spread, turn the page one more time to the turn the right page. Let's go to 8 and 9. On page 9, in the very last panel, Dark Mouse is on the ground. He's also holding something in his left hand, I think. That's the thorn from the cat. So the idea in this story is he's referencing
pulling it out.
He's pulled out the thorn from the cat. He fell in that warehouse. He saw the cat. He was about to die, and then he helps the cat. This is very much that story of the mouse and the lion with the thorn in his paw. He couldn't get it out. The mouse helped him out. Now he's friends with the mouse. Now Dark Mouse is in trouble. Cat's coming to the rescue.
Okay. All right. So now we see the cat breaking through the lines while the lieutenant is kind of radioing in, looking for everyone. And turning over to 12 and 13, we see this cat going ham right now. And I really love the direction right here, seeing this cat just like roaring, growling, and chasing down these mice.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to put it. The cat is going ham on all these mice. It's a real bad day for those guys. They've probably been abusing it, beating it, starving it, who knows. And right now they hurt his friend, so he's going after them. And in the next page, we can see the main villain. He is dead in a bloody mess. All the other guys are getting arrested. The detective is smoking. He's trying to relax and decompress. Looks up at the moon wistfully. He's like, I don't know what happened, but I'm pretty sure Drake was there. We don't have any evidence to say otherwise. We don't know where he was, and he's never told us where he was, but I'm pretty sure he was there. You can turn the page one more time. We see Dark Mouse and his new buddy hanging out. And,
so do we see any more adventures of him with the cat from this point forward?
Absolutely, you will see that in
awesome.
one of the future Dark Mouse books. He's got friends, and actually, the cat shows up in the third zine I ever made, which I also like catalog in this Kickstarter book. So I'll show you where it was. The back cover. I always try and leave some space for myself to do like original art on comics. So the back cover is like a mirror image, and then anyone who buys that, I'll do a sketch on there for them. Or I used to do that.
So what format was this? This looks like it was a little bit different of a format than your traditional comic.
Yeah, it was basically a landscape comic. It's 8.5 by 11, but on its side. And,
okay.
Just stapled on the short side.
You know, I'm totally an idiot, and I didn't think to kind of like look at that from a different perspective.
You're good, man. You're good.
That is awesome though. That's pretty genius. Doing this, I haven't really seen a lot of different formats of comics, so it's cool to see one that's done where they take it and just tilt it. You know, I never really seen that before.
Yeah, it's definitely not common for probably a number of reasons. The printers don't do it that often, so it's they have to change up their machines a little bit to do it, depending on where you go. Some people can knock it out real quick. If it's a smaller operation, it might cost you a little bit more. But this one was pretty reasonable for me. But yeah, it's a landscape comic. It's my first full color printed produced book that I had somebody else manufacture for me. It was real nice not having the cut and fold stuff on my own.
Yeah. So let's go ahead. Since we did that, let's go through the first third of the Kickstarter one.
Let's do it. So am I still sharing?
Yes, and I just added it. So you are going to be the one that has the wheel for this one. So you'll have to scroll at your own pace.
Awesome. Can do. So this is the first page of the climb. This is the first one of the first meetings that I went to for that comic book club, which was called Meltology. It was at Meltdown Comics, so everything kind of references that, or a lot of artwork in those zines will reference that. So if anybody's seen this before, they've seen it next to a bunch of other stuff. But it was again serialized over 12 months. This is my first time drawing, and when I was creating this, and I explained this in the book and the Kickstarter, I didn't really have a plan. This was just like me showing up. I was like, maybe I'll do this, and I'll do like, I don't know, three issues of Meltology. That's how long the story will be. So like at the bottom here, it says continued in a future issue. It doesn't really explain that this is going to be, this is part 1 of 12. I don't start doing that until I think the next month. But to explain what's going on here, we start off in the black, and Dark Mouse is opening his eyes, and he doesn't know where he is, but he's on a cliff. He's just at the edge of some kind of chasm or canyon, and he's waking up. And we have a little allusion to like him climbing over here. This is kind of like a nod to like people like Will Eisner and his comic Spirit, and like it's not on that level, of course, but it's me trying to just play with the medium a little bit. The next month, too fast. The next month is Dark Mouse just making some more progress over here. He's reaching up and he's pulling himself up, and I'm starting to play with the medium a little more. The climb is now.
I really like that. Yeah.
The rock side, and then you can see him climbing up. And I zoom out to give a little more perspective. He says, "I'm coming," and we see him way down here, and we see something going on up here. You can't tell what it is. You don't find out until maybe next month. Here's the third month that this story takes place, the third page. And this is me getting really experimental with the comics. This is going vertically downward with the story, and then vertically upward, climbing with Dark Mouse as he climbs over the words "the climb," and then back up here to this part of the comic, which follows the dialogue down, and we see him still climbing over here. And then this says part 3 to be continued in a future issue. And I'm still not saying like part 3 of 12 or anything. But this was a super fun page. This is where the title artwork comes from, or the cover artwork comes from. That's this drawing just colored and put on the cover. And one other thing that I also wanted in this anthology is that the other 2 stories are full color. This one is not. This one I kept black and white. There's some polishing that I did on this. I cleaned it up a little bit because, like I said, this was done in a couple hours. Each page was done in like 2 hours ish at a comic book shop, so it's not the cleanest artwork in the world. So I scanned this and cleaned up like errors and basically digitally white outed some stuff. But I still wanted it to have that black and white ink feeling, that underground comics feeling, as somebody mentioned earlier, because that's how this was made. This was made as almost like it was made as a zine. It's made very raw, and that's how it looks best. If I started coloring this, that would change up the visual message a little bit, but I think I was able to keep that intact. Here's what's going on at the top now. So we see a little bit in this page that there's this guy held at his knees at the cliffside, and there's some people saying like, "Hey, you have some information, give us that information." And here we see the best view of them. Here's their leader. Her name is Lady, and then all of her henchmen are back here, but she's clearly the alpha here. She's the boss, and she's making this dude cower. And then we see the title playing down here, and Dark Mouse climbing around the title. He's slowly basically making his way up here. to the villains. Here we see just kind of another perspective shot, me playing around with the medium. It's there's some dialogue here, but it's not important to be close to them, so I have some fun with the scenery a little bit. She's thrown off that character and he's been caught, or what looks like him being caught. I don't know. I don't know if this is the best way to explain that in the story, but this is Dark Mouse holding up the guy that was just thrown off the cliff like he was. So he's saved him. And in the next page, in the next month, my drawing is really experimental. This is kind of this floating panels of the bad guys looking for a briefcase, which is a classic MacGuffin thing. Nothing super fancy with the writing of this story, but with the visual medium, like I was saying earlier, that's where I have my fun. So in these like solid panels, we see the villains looking for something, and then they find it. And in the outside, we see just kind of blurred or dark, obscure images and some text that says, like, this one says "ow," and this one says "keep it down," and this one says "Drake," and he says "shut up, stay here, I'll be right back." And that's happening all on the outside, and it's hard to see. The idea there is that I'm trying to say that it's hard to see, and maybe even hard to hear what's going on here. And I've made it hard to understand by breaking up the dialogue and putting it vertically and horizontally and obscuring that and obscuring these characters who are saying all of this outside of the panel. Everything that is happening outside of the panel is happening around these characters as they're searching. So they're looking in the woods for this thing while Dark Mouse and the other character are hiding and whispering things around them.
No, I gotcha. Yeah, no, I love the paneling though. I love you could see the different progressions of the different things you tried out too, like the way how you experimented with panels and how that ended up playing into other ones. Like, it's awesome to kind of see the growth from the different months, because you said this was done over 12 months, right?
Yeah, and this is month 4, so we have part 4 here. So yeah, it's like really me just like cutting loose and like having some fun with this. And I think like every month in between, I would just think about like what's going to happen on the next page. In this page, this is like super abstract. The panel is the figure of a mouse who's getting attacked somehow. He's screaming. That's happening in the forefront. The idea here that I came in with, I was like, okay, at this point, the bad guys find the briefcase, and I want Dark Mouse to take it from them, but I don't know how to communicate that where it's somebody getting attacked in the dark. I don't want to color all that black space. How do I do that? So I knew I wanted an image of this character cowering or falling, something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna make this the panel. And then I drew drew Lady and one of her henchmen looking for this henchman who's being clearly attacked by Dark Mouse here, or unclearly attacked by Dark Mouse here. It is another kind of illustration of like, we can't see what's happening, and I want to give the suggestion of what's happening, but not actually more subtle communication.
Yeah. Real quick, we have a raid coming in from Random American 3000. Thank you for joining us over on Twitch. How was your stream? And welcome everybody. We are in the middle of doing a live interview with our good friend Nathaniel. We are breaking down currently a third of his book that just got funded on Kickstarter. So yeah, anyone that has any questions, feel free to drop them in chat.
Yeah, please. This is really the first time anyone's seeing all of these artworks all together in any kind of sequence, because like I was saying, these were printed and published in a zine. Maybe 50 copies of each of those exist, but you don't have that whole story unless you've collected all of those zines. So very few people have seen this, if at all.
That's cool. And the odds of them seeing it together in pages binded together is probably even slimmer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're not going to see that at all. So until you get this book, which you can pre-order at idraw.com. This page is kind of interesting. This is based on the actual. We might look at this later. I think I'll share a couple of extra pages. But this is a double-page spread. This is part of the cover of the comic. But this still works as my page 8 or pages 8 and 9 as in the story. So every month for this monthly meetup, normally you would draw a page and that page would end up inside the comic. Whoever called dibs though, and as long as there wasn't a line in front of you, could do the cover of the comic. And at this point in this month, I was like, oh, I want to do the cover. And the guy who's running that, Chuck, was like, yeah, sure, like, you can do the cover.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And then I was like, oh no, I'm doing a sequential story. How do I still make the cover work as like the next page of the story? So this is a double page spread. on the left-hand side inside the book, you'll see lady and her henchman trying to shoot a dark mouse who they just threw over a cliff, so they're kind of surprised to see this guy jumping out. I'm really had a lot of fun here because I made Meltology, this zine, look like the cover of Dark Mouse. I made this look like a Dark Mouse comic because that's the title that's the biggest here. And again, real subtly, I've thrown in the word Meltology into the background kind of explosion imagery or dynamic graphics that I've thrown in here. This was Meltology issue number 28.
Okay, yeah. So we have Random American saying the artwork is reminiscent of a mouse, M-A-U-S.
Yeah, are you familiar with Mouse?
Well, again, I'm not familiar with a whole lot of like different type of comics in that area, but it feels, some of it feels like it's coming back. It's just I'm not that well versed.
No problem. So like Mouse is a kind of renowned story, and I want to say the artist and writer Art Spiegelman has won like multiple awards, including maybe, is it a Pulitzer or a Nobel Peace? He's won some kind of awards. I don't know if it's a Nobel or a Pulitzer Prize, but he's won a lot. He's gotten a lot of accolades for it. It's a story of him and his father telling him stories about going through Auschwitz, the internment camp in Germany, in Nazi Germany, and all of those trials and tribulations. And so he's putting that into a comic, and he's illustrating his conversations with his dad. And I won't go too deep into that, but it's a really, really harrowing story, and it's a really great read. I recommend everybody take a look at that because that's comics in some of its highest form, depending on who you talk to. These mice are definitely visually based on that, because at the point when I was drawing Dark Mouse, in my head, on a very foundational level, I read Mouse while I was in high school. So in my head, at a very base level, that's how mice look in comics. So if you gave me a pen or a pencil and I didn't think, and I drew what does a mouse in a comic book look like, it looks like that. So this is you can look at it even like the world of that comic Mouse was happening in like Nazi Germany in the 40s and 50s, and then in the 90s while he's having those conversations with his dad. And this is contemporary mice from that world. This is who we are now. So in this page, part 9, I think, the Dark Mouse is in the thick of it. He's let them know that he survived. He's got the case, and they're all fighting now, and it's getting crazy. The next page, and that was just another example of just like me getting to draw like just like a brawl, just a bunch of mice and limbs flying all over the place. In the next page, he's conquered his foes, and he's looking around because they can't find Lady. This is him, and this other character is named London. This is actually a character created by a buddy of mine named Jamie Gamble, who also does comics, does indie comics, and he does sound production on movie sets. But he's a great creator in his own right. He has this character called the Black Wraith. He has other characters that are basically like his versions of the Trinity of Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. But he loved Dark Mouse, and he's always very supportive. I think he backed the Kickstarter too, and he wrote his own fan story, his own story of Dark Mouse, and I drew it, and we put it online. And it was like a part 1, and we wanted to do like a 2 and 3 and like continue that, and like that just never materialized. But I had a lot of fun doing it, and I asked him, I said, hey man, is it okay if I use your character London in the future Dark Mouse story? And he's like, yeah, go for it.
That's awesome. Though that's awesome.
Yeah. So that's like one of the few examples of me saying like, here, so and so, play with my toys, and then like they played with them, and they did something really cool. So much so like they made their own mouse, and now I'm playing with that. So anyways, him and his buddy London realized that Lady's got the case now. She recovered it during all the tussle that was going on down below. Now she's making her way up the rest of the mountain, and they're in pursuit as they go up. The title here is The Moon. That one I kind of that one it's less prominent in the scenery, so this was really just about like the figures and the character. In the second to last page of this story, we see Dark Mouse and London have cornered Lady. Now she's on the cliff's edge, and in this one I got a chance to like play with the scenery again. So the scenery is the title here.
I really like it too. It looks good.
Appreciate it. And as you read through this page, the Dark Mouse and Lemon get distracted, and the same rocky figure I make the last panel, which is really this like exposed outside panel without any frame or border. But she's off the cliffside now. They didn't throw her off. They don't know what happened. They just know that she's gone. So like the stone and the cliff, the mountain that they climb on is really prominent in this page. And on the last page, it's a little more back into traditional comics. They're looking over the cliffside. They're standing on the frame here. They're talking about how Dark Mouse is really just going to say, he's just going to call it and say like, there's no way she survived. And Lemon's like, hey, you just survived this fall from the cliff. Like, you saved me, but like you survived. Like, it's possible that she survived. And she's right here hanging out with her briefcase. So she's got the money. The villain got away. She might come up later on. And just real quickly, I'm going to scroll through to this. There's a couple of bonus pieces, but this is the final cover for that issue 28 of what that looked like. So this is
that is cool, yeah.
It's a double spread, double page cover. There's a term for it, and I'm totally blanking on it. But yeah, this is I left this giant black space here for the credits for the book. Chuck was like super. He's an art director at LA Weekly, not LA Weekly. What's the?
Are you looking for? Is it wraparound cover?
Wraparound cover. Thank you. Yeah, that's the term. So this is a wraparound cover. The guy that put this together, Chuck, he made sure to always credit everybody that went into the book. So he's very, very class act 100% of the way, making sure people get credit where credit is due. I think like one time I did an ads page in the Meltology zine, and they were all like fake ads. I had other people in the meeting draw the ads. So there was like somebody was doing invisible ink. Somebody was like, oh, like you could do like bodybuilding, just like they used to have in like all the old school comics.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a real fun time when people were making a bunch of art with each other. It's a good fun. So yeah, that's the climb. That's the first story, the first third of this anthology. There's 2 other stories in there. You can still pre-order the book. We're not funding a Kickstarter anymore, but you can still go to my website and get and support the book. And once I do have it printed, I'm gonna mail it out to everybody.
Cool. Let's go ahead and we'll move to our main chat, and we will begin wrapping this up. So real quick, for anyone that's out there that is kind of on the fence about going to the website and pre-ordering it, what would you like to say to them directly to kind of help push them over that edge?
When are you going to hear about Dark Mouse again? You might see it in your algorithms. You want to get it now. You want to get it before the next book comes out. There's only going to be a handful of these out in the world. Like most like big publishers will publish like depending on the book, like thousands of copies of a book. I'm a small publisher. I'm a small operation. I'm only printing 500 of these. So this is a very limited type of book and type of story that you'll be able to get your hands on. I'm going to send it to as many stores as I can, as many stores show interest. It's rare, and I think it's halfway decent comics in my mind. This is like some of my real love and passion goes into this. Everything I make with Dark Mouse, I make with a lot of love and care. So it's good comics. I had people read through it. So a few people have had a chance to look at it and say like, oh, like this should be tweaked, that kind of thing. So it's a good product. It's a decent product. I really enjoy it. I think a lot of people will too. And if you like Secret of Nim, or if you like Mice, or if you like Sin City, this is right up your alley. It's great for young males, but there's a lot of different like moms and just people you wouldn't expect picking up Dark Mouse because they say, oh, look how cute he is. Oh, he's kind of a badass. Yeah, man, I'll take it. And this is it's a good book. I think people will dig it, and there's not going to be a lot out there, so you should pick them up.
Awesome, man. Let's go and let's finish it off strong. So for anyone out there that is struggling to get their own Dark Mouse off the ground, to get their own passion and something that they've been working on kind of just started, what type of advice would you like to give them to kind of help them get through that barrier?
Getting started is sometimes the hardest part. Know that it's I don't want to give anybody false expectations. So like what I try and be mindful of is thinking about what it's going to cost, and not just with money, like what kind of time it's going to take, what kind of work it's going to take on your part. So whatever you're trying to do, you're trying to start a record label, you're trying to make a comic book, you're trying to make a series of paintings, you really want to get your Etsy store off the ground, look at some or you want to run a Kickstarter, look at some successful examples of that. Successful meaning those are a Kickstarter that was funded, or an Etsy store that has regular sales, or a music label that you hear from regularly. It doesn't have to be this huge production. I would not recommend anyone saying like, oh, I want to get in comics, I want to see what Marvel is doing and then do exactly that. No, don't do that. Look at one comic book that did well, see what about that did well, and see what you would like to make. Not saying go and recreate that thing or make a title page just like that one, even though you don't like that title page. No, see the things you like, take those and build onto that. Don't copy anything explicitly, but get inspired by something you like. If you like a bunch of turtle characters, Franklin, Ninja Turtles, whatever it is, maybe make a turtle character, and you can have homages in there. I have like homages to like all kinds of mice characters, but whatever you're gonna do, be mindful that it's gonna be fun. Hopefully, if there's something you like doing, have fun with it, please. The finished thing will look that much better, or will feel that much better, whatever it is, music, visual art, whatever it is. If you're having fun, that comes through a lot of the time in the final product. So try and have fun. If you can, try and make it polished, and then go from there. I would not recommend trying to have a wildly successful or lucrative business right off the bat. Like just try and do the thing. See if you can do the dance. Later on, charge money for it.
Yeah, Franklin. Wow, that is a throwback. You are making me feel old with that one. Oh man, shoo. I really appreciate that. What an awesome response, and I think that is something that someone can take and really run with. Now, with that being said, I think this is a perfect time for us to wrap up. So once again, you can pre-order this book on his website at idraw.com. That link is in the description down below. Nathaniel, thank you so much for coming on, keeping it geekly with us, and breaking down Dark Mouse, The Climb, and other tales. For anyone else that's in the chat and still watching at this point, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Be sure to check out Nathaniel on all of his respective social media platforms. If you're still here, be sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications as well. But most importantly, guys, keep it geekly yourselves.